Sunday, 7th of August 2022. It is a beautiful late winter's day. I wouldn't call it early spring, but it's a nice day in the South African Lowveld. Today's this and that is, there are some things in here that I think we should really take note of. The world as we knew it before February 2022 is busy changing, and it is changing at a fast rate, and it will not be the same. Unfortunately, there will be casualties, and I'm worried about that. But most of the injuries in this global revolution is self-inflicted. Don't forget that. It is self-inflicted. And I'm starting off in the Donbass. Residents of the liberated territories of the LDPR do not believe their eyes. The amounts in payments for housing and communal services have decreased 3 to 4 times. Now, I can imagine that those inhabitants are pretty impressed with this. And from what I have read, it seems to me that this is the way the Russians operate. They don't shaft their citizens. And then there's this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, you can read it, but this is the type of thing that makes me very angry. Ukrainian terrorists shelled Donetsk with air-blasted shells to maximize civilian casualties. The mayor of Donetsk said that Ukrainian shells descended by parachute and exploded at a height of about 50 meters from the ground. Now, if you read through the rest of the article, you will see that these things are really dangerous. This is terrorism. And what makes me very angry is that the so-called collective West is financing this. This is not right. And then back to the Green Deal. This is a lithium leach field. That is what your electric car batteries are made of. It is so neurotoxic that a bird landing on this stuff dies in minutes. Take a guess what it does to your nervous system. Pat yourself on the back for saving the environment. And if you look at that image, it is absolutely shocking. And as the guy says, those things are extremely toxic. And then there is this article. We are seeing a terrible recklessness that comes to almost criminal political decisions in the energy sector. Our politicians deliberately undermine the German economy, especially the middle class. Eike Hammer believes that the forecast for a recession in the German economy is very realistic. The Economist explained that the decisions of the German government in the field of energy are connected with at a global level. It turned out that Schulz and co-supporters of the Great Reset has seized the ministerial chairs. And as I've said previously, I'm waiting for the day that the ordinary citizens wake up and realize that this political race has elevated themselves into a super race and global controllers of everything we do. And now I'm coming to the topic of the global revolution. And we need to take note of these things. Turkish banks are adopting Russian payment systems, Erdogan says. 5 Turkish banks are simultaneously introducing the Russian payment system Mir, writes Bloomberg. The leaders of the central banks of the two countries met yesterday during talks between the presidents of Turkey and Russia. As Erdogan himself stated, such changes are a relief both for Russian tourists and for Turkey itself. We already wrote about the fact that Turkey will become one of the main hubs for Russia to circumvent Western sanctions. Now, that last sentence about the sanction circumvention, I personally think that is just pure propaganda and malicious from Bloomberg. And then there's this article. Recep Tayyip Erdogan at a meeting in Sochi with respected Putin we agreed on the ruble as a monetary unit in trade, since we will make our trade in ruble. This, of course, will become a serious source of income for Turkey and Russia. Now, that is something that the Western world must take note of these things. These are all the small movements are happening. The Mir system in Turkey, now they are trading with each other in a ruble. What you must understand is that trade is now excluding the euro and the dollar. And that is how that unipolar commercial world is being dismantled brick by brick. And another one, in the Financial Times. Alarm mounts in Western capitals over Turkey's deepening ties with Russia. Western countries increasingly concerned about the deepening Russian-Turkish cooperation. Financial Times. Western politicians speaking to Financial Times warned of a harsh reaction in Ankara if Ankara helps Moscow evade sanctions. One of the EU officials told the newspaper that Turkey is increasingly becoming a platform for trade with Russia. Now, I'm not going to read the rest. The fact of the matter is, again, aggressive. That is what the EU is. That is what they are trying to project. Aggression. And they are going to pay dearly for that. It is quite obvious that between Russia and China, they've made a decision that they are no longer going to be bullied by the West. And from where I'm sitting here in South Africa, and I'm just a keen observer, I can tell you this: if the West tackles Russia and China simultaneously, there's going to be a heap of ash where the West used to be. And it makes me angry that they keep on casting suspicion on the fact that there's new relationships being built in the non-West. And I don't think that is going to work out well for them. They are going to find themselves isolated. I think that within not long, the West is going to find themselves in the position that most of the countries in the rest of the world has been absolutely encircled by sanctions, and that's it. The West is going to feel the same pain. And then there's this. Western countries are concerned about the deepening of cooperation between Russia and Turkey. An EU official said that the EU is paying attention to relationships between the countries. The EU should pay attention, but not for the reasons that they are paying attention. They must look and see. It's time for that EU cabal to get on a plane, fly to Moscow and sit in front of President Putin and say, sorry, we screwed up. How can we fix this? And then shut up and listen. Then there's this one. Putin, it is the start of transition from liberal globalist USA egocentrism to truly multipolar world based on international law, genuine sovereignty of nations, their will to live their historical destiny with their values and traditions, to align cooperation via democracy, justice and equality. And that is very true. And that is something that I feel, or not feel, I think America specifically is finding it hard to envisage a world in which they are not the super dominant bully. They are finding it hard. And then there's this, and this guy is in the Arab world. The demise of the dollar dominance is inevitable. There is a mismatch between US share of global economy and dollar share of global markets. US accounts for 10% of world trade and 15% of global GDP, but dollar accounts for 50% of global trade, invoicing and 60% of official forex reserves. And this is going to change, and I have a funny feeling it's going to change rapidly. Now just try and imagine what it is going to do to the American economy. Because at this stage, America is in the position, because of these figures that this guy is talking about, America is exporting their inflation. US dollar's dominance in global markets is unhealthy for the global economy. An economy that accounts for an increasingly smaller share of global GDP and trade can't sustain its currency as an anchor for global economy and trade. Its economy is diverging from those that are rising. And then we are back with Orban. I like this guy and I'm not going to make excuses for it. Prime Minister Orban to Karine Hammer. I can sometimes express myself in a way that can be misunderstood. We are proud of what Hungary has achieved in terms of the fight against racism. It is not about racism, it is about cultural differences. And for me, that is a very, very important statement that he made there. And I responded to that tweet. How much sense in that statement? We in South Africa need to take note. It is not about racism, it is about cultural differences. And then we are back into Taiwan. The US military commanders repeatedly tried to contact their Chinese counterparts amid the aggravation around Taiwan, but they do not answer calls in Beijing, writes Politico. Well, what do you expect? They were dumb, stupid, and arrogant to allow Pelosi to go to Taiwan. And that trip is going to have fallout that we will see for a long time. And unfortunately, the Taiwanese people are going to suffer. Now, look here. These are the things that the Chinese has now cancelled with America. Cancelling US theater commanders talk. Cancelling defense policy coordination talks. The 3 US military maritime consultative agreement meetings. 4. Suspending cooperation on the repatriation of illegal immigrants. 5. Suspending cooperation on legal assistance in criminal matters. 6. Suspending cooperation against transnational crimes. 7. Suspending counter-narcotics cooperation. 8. Suspending China-US talks on climate change. And this is the result of that stupid Pelosi-Taiwan adventure. And then we're back in the Ukraine. Medvedev commented on Zelensky's proposal to the Rada to approve the decision to confiscate Russian property. Now the Rada is Zelensky's parliament. And then Medvedev made this statement. They take from us on paper and we take from them on the ground. And our armed forces are successfully dealing with the issues of confiscation of the criminally acquired property of the Kiev regime and its conversion into the property of the Russian Federation. Powerful statement, and as I said in a previous Skidmark, time is running out for Zelensky. And then we have this is another thing that makes me very angry. The Russians don't have to look for those HIMARS. The Russians need to destroy Nazi Ukraine with a shaft of fire and these HIMARS with it. Traffic on the Antonovsky Bridge in Kherson, damaged by American missiles, will resume early next week. You see, this is what Zelensky and his Nazis are doing. They are destroying vital infrastructure. That's what they are doing. And they are involved in bombing the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. And they're trying to blame the Russians. Why the hell will the Russians bomb themselves? Their people and their personnel is in charge of that nuclear plant. And their people that they have just freed from the Nazi regime lives around that plant. Why would they bomb themselves? The Zelensky idiot thinks that everybody in the West has got an IQ below room temperature. I'm not going to talk about that idiot anymore. The game will be up soon. There are also documents coming out of Germany of this corruption and all types of illegal, unethical and criminal ventures where he is directly indicated. And he's referring to Zelensky. I think that guy is tethering on the edge. This is amazing. The Ukrainian armed forces shelled the nuclear power plant caused fire, destroyed power lines, and the EU blames Russia for this, encouraging Kiev to continue attacks against the plant. EU officials live in a surreal world. Now, it was that Joseph Borrell that made this stupid statement. The EU condemns Russia's military activities around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And the Russians released a statement last night in which I say the Europeans must just understand, if that Zaporizhzhia plant, if something goes terribly wrong there, it will be 4 to 5 times worse than with Chernobyl. The EU is playing with fire and they are instigating that crazy rabid dog in Kiev to do these stupid things. And then, this is another thing, the West should be deeply concerned. Staggering, we knew it was bad, but not this bad. 70% of the billions of dollars of military aid that the US is sending to the Ukraine doesn't make it to the front line. And this was published by a paper in Scotland. Guys, the people in Europe are going to pay dearly for this. You must just understand, there are now radicals, crazy people in Europe that are armed to the teeth. Think about it for a moment, and now I go to the levels of conspiracy theories. There was millions of young, capable men that streamed into Europe with a migration wave and tsunami. Is this not the way that it was planned to arm those people? If you're a European, ask yourself that question and then become extremely worried. And then now we're in the US. Whether you hate Russia and China or not, you should be able to acknowledge that it is the US that has been provoking them, not the other way around. And there is a ton of truth in this statement. And now we are in South Africa, and South Africans will understand the message behind this image. And I have made statements around this in previous Skidmarks. The people in South Africa is getting tired and sick of the ANC government. And there's a lot of people that are no longer convinced that voting the ANC out is an option. It's still 2 years to the next elections. Our country cannot survive for 2 years, and they're rolling out the tires. And if you're a South African, you know what they do with those tires. And then there's a South African that made this remark: you can't study to be an entrepreneur. It's not a career. It is drive and ingenuity. Knowledge is helpful, but creativity is what it's about. Entrepreneurs are everywhere. People experience problems, and they have a burning desire to invent things to make life more bearable. And this refers back to our lying president with his BEE policies and forever being racist in his speeches and denying white people free access to the economy. And it's now coming back and bite them. They spend billions of rands in trying to establish black industrialists and black entrepreneurs. The reality is in this paragraph from this guy: you can't study to be an entrepreneur. And that is the thing. And we need to take serious note of that. And now is that moment for what a fuck. And who is the object of this what a fuck? Nobody else than Charles Schwab. Make sure you listen and read what is on that meme. This guy will own nothing. Once he's gone, I will be happy. And that is how I feel. And on this Sunday, I say, have a great day. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, share the thing. And if you're in South Africa, now is the time to braai.